Tonight, the top two players in the world to meet. Ivan Lendl, ranked number 1 on the ATP computer and in Nabisco Grand Prix points, where he earned an $800,000 bonus as he becomes the first player to surpass $10 million in career earnings. Lendl has won 8 tournaments in 1986, including the French Open and the U.S. Open. Meanwhile, he was runner-up at Wimbledon to Boris Becker, who's ranked number 2 on the ATP computer and in Nabisco Grand Prix points. He successfully defended that Wimbledon title against Lendl with that hell-bent for leather style. Lendl and Becker have met 8 times, and Lendl has come out ahead 5-3. But on the 1986 Nabisco Grand Prix Tour, Becker has defeated Lendl in 3 out of 4 matches. Their last meeting was at the Sydney Indoor in October, where Becker won that one. Leading up to tonight's final of the Nabisco Masters, each player is undefeated in round-robin competition. Tonight's match could decide who's number 1 in the world as Ivan Lendl meets Boris Becker in the finals of the Nabisco Masters. And we welcome you to Madison Square Garden in New York for the final of this $500,000 Nabisco Masters. The winner receives $100,000 for winning this final. Hi, everybody. Along with Cliff Drysdale, I'm Roger Twyba. The question in tennis is not necessarily money, but who is number 1 and how that is decided. Usually, though, you do look at the money rankings. You also look at the number of Grand Slam titles. If you do that, Ivan Lendl has won 2 Grand Slam titles this year. He has won more money than anyone else. And the question, Cliff Drysdale, is if Boris Becker can defeat Ivan Lendl tonight in this best-of-5 final, will he be considered the number 1 player in the world?
Well, the question is a good one. I think it's a very relevant one. There are a few things that you have to consider. You have to talk about Grand Slam wins, of course. Well, Becker won maybe the grandest of all the slams in that he won Wimbledon. If he wins here, you may consider this to be a kind of a Grand Slam. That would make it 2-2. You also have to look at the head-to-head records, because I think that's important. They have played now this year 4 times. The first time was in Chicago. Becker won that. He also beat him at Wimbledon. He beat him, lost him in Stratton, Vermont, beat him out in Australia. That's 3-1. If he wins tonight, 4-1. Now, that depends on whether you want to look at this thing from an overall year's perspective, 1986. And then I think it becomes a very close call. Even if Becker wins, the fact that Lendl got to every Grand Slam final, I think, is a factor in his favor. Look, as far as this part of the year is concerned, in my judgment, if Becker wins tonight, at this point in time, he is without question the best player in the world.
Now, we've had the top 8 players in the world here in this round-robin competition, and the top 2 players are remaining. We asked some people who cover tennis on a regular basis around the world and some people associated with the sport, if Becker wins tonight, do they consider him number 1?
That's tonight is the heavyweight championship of the world, and the winner, in my opinion, is number 1 in the world.
For me, Ivan Lendl comes in as number 1, but if Becker beats him, he becomes number 1. He'd be 4-1 for the season. He would have won Wimbledon. He ends the season on a 22-match streak. So it could be Boris Uberallis if he wins.
This is a neutral surface. It's best of 5 sets. Becker's won 3 out of the last 4 matches since they played here a year ago. Whoever wins is the best player in the world.
If Becker wins tonight, he's up 4-1 in head-to-heads with Lendl, and he won Wimbledon. So there's a strong argument for him to be number 1. But Lendl's had a tough year, too.
I think it should be Lendl anyway. Even if Becker wins, giving it to Becker would be like giving a boxing match to a fighter because he wins the last 3 rounds. You have to judge a year from January to the end, like you have to judge a boxing match from the first to the last round.
So we've heard some experts from around the world about what will happen if Becker defeats Lendl. So, Cliff, who's going to win this thing?
You know, I think the interesting thing is the diversity of opinion there among those guys. But this whole conversation is meaningless if Lendl wins it. He's without question the number 1 player in the world, and that is a big question. Most people that I've spoken to think Lendl is going to win it. I don't agree. I think it's a very close match. Statistically speaking, there's nothing between these 2 guys. I'm talking about this whole week. It's a very big occasion for the both of them. Becker has been very good and sometimes very bad. Lendl is so much more of an even kind of a player. That's the way that he plays. I'm going to go with Becker because I think he wants to win this thing so badly, and I think he can sustain his highs for long enough.
If you put all the information into the computer, what the computer says is these 2 players, Ivan Lendl and Boris Becker, are at the top of their games right now. and we're expecting a great match. Another guy who is working with us tonight, who is always at the top of his game, a member of Team Nabisco, Rod Laver, is going to be courtside with us. And Rod, what about if Becker beats Lendl, and how do you see this match tonight?
Well, Roger, you're looking at two tremendous players tonight. They're playing at the top of their game, and I see this thing so evenly matched. They played great all the way through the week. I think that Lendl, of course, as Cliff said, if he wins, then undisputedly he's number one. But I think if Becker comes through, which I feel that he's capable of, he's got a great serve, great ground stroke, his ability to be at his best in the important points. And I think the main thing is that if Becker wins, then I see them being co-number one.
Okay, Rod, thank you very much. Looking forward to your comments this evening. We have the number 1 and 2 players in the world matched up here tonight. $100,000 winner-take-all for the Nabisco Masters. We'll be right back. You're looking at Madison Square Garden in New York, where since last Wednesday, the top 8 tennis players in the world have been playing to reach this point. And Richard Kaufman of the United States is the chair umpire this evening. He will be at the controls of Cyclops on the service line to let us know if that serve is good or not. And you look at these two guys, 26 and 19 respectively, and earnings so far this week for both $110,000, and as we mentioned, the winner tonight to receive $100,000, and that means that one of these two guys will walk out of here with $210,000. Will it be Boris Becker, man who defended his title at Wimbledon against Ivan Lendl, or it will be Lendl, who won the U.S. Open and the French Open?
I was very interested in some of the things that Becker had to say in the interviews after the matches. Specifically yesterday is a chance to see Mr. and Mrs. Becker there in the middle of your screen. But he has a very clear understanding, a remarkably mature man for just 19 years of age, as to what it takes for him to beat Lendl. I'm talking about technique now. I don't suppose that should be a surprise to me. The guy has won Wimbledon, and he has done so many extraordinary things in his short career. But that sort of mental maturity, that understanding of what he needs, is a surprise to hear from a man so young. Günter Bosch may have something to do with that mental maturity. The guy has done an outstanding job, found Becker and went to Ion Turiak, who is his manager, and said, I think we've got a winner here, Ion. Would you like to manage him? Turiak was suitably impressed, took him under his wing, and boy, they have done wonderful things together.
Interesting note on Ivan Lendl. We've talked throughout the week about his preparation for the Australian Championship.